Spirit warriors, stay close because this isn't just another story. This is your divine confirmation. Have you ever experienced the kind of betrayal that cuts deeper than words? The kind of public shaming that makes your knees buckle, not from weakness, but from the sheer weight of spiritual warfare. Yet somehow you rise, not in spite of the fire, but of it. Let's talk about Zariah, a soft-spoken young woman who radiated peace, kindness, and spiritual awareness. The kind of soul who prayed in silence rather than retaliated in noise. But her light attracted shadows. One day her closest circle, friends she trusted, turned against her. They ridiculed her spiritual walk, spread lies about her character, and orchestrated scenes to embarrass her in front of classmates, her community, and even her own family. They said she was too deep, too quiet, and too different. But what they were really doing was reacting to her spiritual elevation, trying to dim a light that made them uncomfortable. What Zariah experienced wasn't just bullying, it was a spiritual test, what many call A. In psychological and spiritual terms, a humiliation ritual is a form of social and emotional trial designed to break your sense of self. But when you're a chosen one, it does the opposite. It awakens you. Zariah didn't clap back, she didn't retaliate, she discerned. She chose silence, not as surrender, but as a calculated shield. Because in spiritual warfare, discernment is more powerful than defense. It's the quiet voice of God that whispers who's real and who's just posing. And through that silence, she saw clearly. Chosen ones, your discernment is your protection. That humiliation you endured, it was designed to expose what couldn't walk with you into your next chapter. Sometimes God allows your enemies to gather, not to destroy you, but to reveal them. And what they meant for evil, He flips into fuel for your evolution. If you've walked through that fire and didn't come out smelling like smoke, that's not coincidence. That's purpose. This is your confirmation that you're being elevated. And trust me, discernment is what will carry you through the doors God is opening next. Let's break it all down, because this is the part where your suffering turns into strategy. Point 1. The humiliation ritual is a spiritual initiation. Chosen ones, your pain wasn't punishment, it was preparation for Power Earth. Angel, let's be real, what you went through wasn't just some unfortunate series of events. That betrayal, that public humiliation, the lies they spun behind your back or right to your face, that wasn't a coincidence, it wasn't karma. It wasn't because you were weak, naive, or didn't know better, it was divine training. It was spiritual warfare disguised as rejection. You weren't being punished. You were being prepared. See, the humiliation ritual is an ancient and very real initiation process. Not a ceremony with robes and candles, but one that plays out in the classroom of real life. Public embarrassment, false accusations, isolation, and ridicule. Think about it. Every spiritual legend, prophet, and leader has faced it. From biblical figures like Joseph, thrown into a pit by his own brothers, to modern-day truth-tellers silenced and labeled crazy or too intense. It's a spiritual hazing designed to see, can you be trusted with power and remain humble? Can you be publicly stripped and still walk in divine authority? Psychologists call this kind of experience ego death, when the version of you tied to status, reputation, and approval is shattered. And as painful as it feels, it's necessary. Why? Because the chosen one's mission is too sacred to be fueled by ego. The betrayal forced you into stillness. The lies taught you discernment. The public shame taught you how to detach from external validation. You were being spiritually promoted, but first, God had to clear the noise. Now let's talk about those who did you wrong. The mockers, the backstabbers, the ones who smirked when you were down, thinking your story ended there. Guess what? They're not laughing anymore, because now they're realizing you knew the whole time. You saw the setup. You felt their intentions. You stayed silent, not because you were weak, but because you were wise. You were walking with God, not your ego. You didn't retaliate. You didn't go online to expose them. You didn't return hate for hate. Instead, you became silent thunder, still waters that run deep. And that, dear angel, is the signature of a chosen one. You didn't let the fire consume you. You became the flame. Even science backs this up. Studies on post-traumatic growth show that people who endure deep psychological and emotional pain often emerge with increased inner strength, spiritual development, and a greater sense of life purpose. What looked like a breakdown to others was your breakthrough in disguise. Now, those who underestimated you, They're sitting in regret, not because you clapped back, but because you rose, and they have no access to the new level God is elevating you to. You're becoming the version of yourself that cannot be manipulated, baited, or shaken by drama. You're out of reach, and that's their karma. But hear this. Don't get bitter, get better. Don't gloat, don't throw shade. Let God prepare a table in the presence of your enemies and serve it with elegance. Why? Because sometimes your enemies weren't just trying to destroy you, they were being used to teach themselves a lesson. Your patience schooled them, your silence humbled them, your peace convicted them. You didn't need revenge, your growth was the revenge. So hold your head high. That pain, it crowned you. That betrayal, it freed you. That isolation, it reintroduced you to you. You didn't just survive the ritual, you passed the divine test with honors. And now heaven is applauding. The spiritual realm recognizes your rank. Your anointing didn't come cheap, but it came with purpose. Angels, walk like you know who you are, because the world is about to find out. Point 2, discernment is your shield and your sword. Let's get one thing clear. What saved you wasn't luck. It wasn't that you were just in the right place at the right time, or that the stars randomly aligned for you. No, it was discernment. That divine internal radar that whispered, something's not right here, even when everything looked perfect on the outside. That gut feeling you had when the room was full of applause, yet your spirit felt uneasy. That wasn't fear, that wasn't paranoia, that was prophetic insight, a gift only the chosen ones carry with such power. Discernment is often misunderstood. Some call it overthinking, others call it mistrust. But spiritually awakened people know the truth. Discernment is divine intelligence. It's the holy software installed by God Himself to protect you from destruction, deception, and delay. It's what allows chosen ones to walk through life reading people like open books while pretending they haven't even opened the first page. Remember that time you suddenly ghosted someone and you couldn't explain why? You didn't have receipts, no dramatic fallout, no obvious betrayal, but something in your soul said, disappear. And months later, boom, you find out they were gossiping, scheming, or secretly hoping for your downfall. That wasn't a coincidence, that was your spiritual shield in action. That was your discernment moving faster than danger. There's actually a psychological explanation behind some of this. The human brain processes nonverbal cues, body language, micro-expressions, and tone up to 10,000 times faster than conscious thought. That's your subconscious trying to send you an emergency signal. Red flag, energy mismatch detected. But when you're spiritually tuned in, those signals come not just from your brain, but from a deeper divine source. Chosen ones don't just pick up vibes, they decode them. And here's the beauty of it. Discernment doesn't just protect, it promotes. It helps you avoid emotional investments in the wrong people. It keeps you from wasting time in spaces where your spirit is unwelcome. It doesn't just dodge the bullet, it helps you understand who pulled the trigger, why they did it, and how to never step into that trap again. See, while others are fooled by charisma, smiles, and flattery, you're reading soul frequencies. You sense when praise is laced with jealousy. You know when a compliment is really a setup, and even when you can't prove it, you move accordingly. That's wisdom. That's spiritual warfare. That's being chosen. And let's talk about those people who clapped in your face while plotting your downfall behind the curtain. You didn't expose them. You didn't lash out. You didn't stoop low. You just walked away. And that walk away, that silence, it screamed. It told the whole world that you saw what they did. You just chose not to play dirty. You let God handle what your discernment already detected. Now, while they sit in confusion, wondering how you knew, why you left, or how their manipulation didn't work, you're thriving, elevated, untouchable. Because here's the twist. God didn't just give you discernment to protect yourself. He gave it to you as a tool to help others rise too. Every time you escaped a trap, you became wiser. And every time you shared your story, someone else became freer. Discernment isn't loud, it's not flashy, it doesn't need validation. It's quiet, still, and powerful, and most importantly, it's never wrong. The more you honor it, the sharper it gets, and the sharper it gets, the more unstoppable you become. So the next time you get that strange feeling in your gut, don't ignore it. That's not fear, that's not drama, that's not you being too sensitive. That's your divine software updating you with critical intel. You didn't survive the betrayal because you were lucky. You survived because God gave you the cheat code, and that code was called discernment. Point 3, You were never meant to fit in. You were meant to stand out. The ritual was never random. It wasn't accidental or meaningless. It was designed, crafted with quiet cruelty, wrapped in pretense, and served to you through manipulation, mockery, and misjudgment. It was built to push you to the brink, to test your endurance, question your identity, and make you feel small in a world that fears anything bold, different, or divinely assigned. You were targeted, not because you were weak, but because you were powerful in ways even you hadn't yet realized. You see, chosen ones were never designed to blend in. And oh, how that annoyed the ones who did. You were a walking disruption to mediocrity. Your energy carried truth, clarity, and authenticity, and those things are dangerous in spaces filled with deception. That's why your very existence triggered people who had mastered the art of wearing masks. Your light didn't just shine, it exposed. And demons, yes, even the metaphorical ones, hate being exposed. Have you ever walked into a room and felt the shift in the atmosphere? You didn't say a word, but eyes rolled, whispers sparked, and suddenly you became the center of tension without even trying. That's spiritual resistance. Your aura is not subtle, it's confrontational in the best way. It confronts lies, delusion, envy, and projections just by being. And because people couldn't handle that, they turned to humiliation as their weapon of choice. They mocked your dreams, they questioned your potential, they tried to embarrass you in moments of vulnerability, hoping you'd shrink, retreat, or morph into someone more acceptable. But what they didn't realize is that chosen ones don't shatter under pressure, they solidify. You didn't crumble, you crystallized. And the irony? Their attempts to dim your light only helped you discover that you were solar-powered. You shine regardless of external validation. You glow even when it's cloudy. Laugh a little here. Seriously, take a breath and chuckle. They thought their silence would shut you up. They thought their gossip would define you. They thought rejection would derail you. But you turned every jab into a jewel, every lie into a lesson, and every exile into evolution. You didn't just survive the ritual, you outgrew it. And now the very people who tried to write you off are watching you write a story too powerful to be ignored. But here's the golden rule: don't get bitter, get better. Bitterness anchors you to their low frequency. Betterment, however, elevates you. It allows you to rise above pettiness, above vengeance, above the need for applause. Because when God assigns you a divine purpose, He doesn't consult the crowd. He consults your calling. And guess what? Sometimes He uses your enemies to be unwilling participants in your growth. While they plotted your downfall, they were unknowingly pushing you into your destiny. That's divine strategy. In Proverbs 16:7 it says, "When a man's ways please the Lord, He makes even his enemies to be at peace with him." Meaning, even your opposition becomes part of your orchestration. While they sit in silent regret, you keep ascending. Let them stew in the realization that you knew all along, their intentions, their projections, their envy. You played it cool, not because you were naive, but because you were focused. And now that you've arrived, emotionally, spiritually, purposefully, they're not laughing anymore. You didn't just survive humiliation, you turned it into illumination. Your uniqueness, once targeted as a weakness, has become your greatest strength. Your authenticity, once seen as too much, has become magnetic. You shine with a power that's both healing and disruptive. And that's exactly what the world needs. So keep walking tall, chosen one. Keep shining like the sun they can't eclipse. And next time someone tries to throw shade, just smile. You're solar powered, remember? Shade only makes you shine brighter. Point 4, your silence spoke volumes. Let's talk real for a moment. In a world addicted to noise, drama, and instant reaction, sometimes the most gangster move, the real power play, is silence. No reaction. While they were busy stirring the pot, crafting gossip, and building little circles of chaos to drag your name through the mud, you were crafting something far more valuable. Distance, strategic silence, emotional detachment, a refusal to dance to the rhythm of their low-frequency nonsense. And that right there, that's not weakness, that's wisdom in motion. See, when you respond to every slight, every insult, every attempt to trigger you, you feed their game, you hand over your power like it's free samples at a mall kiosk. But when you observe without absorbing, when you learn to witness the chaos without becoming part of it, you evolve. You level up spiritually, emotionally, and mentally. That's what the humiliation ritual is all about. It's not just about embarrassment or mockery. It's a spiritual test, an initiation designed to provoke, to pull you into the pit, to get a reaction out of you so they can say, "See, told you they'd crack." But you didn't. You stayed quiet. You fasted, you prayed, and you got busy in the shadows. You didn't post your pain on social media. You didn't lash out in public. You went inward. You got on your knees and spoke to God. You whispered your pain into the heavens and came back with strength no one could quite place. That silence, it was sacred. It became your shield and your sword. You gave them nothing to feed on, no anger, no confusion, no drama, and that left them starving. They sat in their own mess, confused why their tricks didn't work this time. And let's not get it twisted, your enemies noticed. They always do. The glow-up wasn't just in your appearance, it was in your energy. Your walk changed, your eyes got sharper. Your energy went from reactive to untouchable. They felt it when you entered the room, even if you didn't say a word. That aura, that's what happens when you let God heal you in silence. You stop chasing validation. And suddenly people are trying to decode your peace. Here's the kicker. They don't know how to explain your elevation. Because it didn't come from hustle culture, it didn't come from clout, connections, or revenge. It came from stillness, from surrender, from nights you cried yourself to sleep, then woke up and kept going. That's the kind of glow-up that confuses your enemies and humbles your haters. They expected a meltdown. What they got was a masterpiece, and you don't have to stunt or rub it in their faces either. That's not your lane. You're not here to get petty. You're here to get purposeful, because when you rise in silence, your enemies are left with only one thing: their own regret. They replay every moment they underestimated you, mocked you, and misread your silence as weakness. They realize too late that you were never broken. You were building. That glow they can't explain, that's what divine favor looks like. So keep that same energy. Stay grounded. Stay prayed up. Stay focused. Let them throw shade. You've already learned how to bloom without sunlight. Keep observing, keep fasting, keep elevating in the dark, because sometimes the most gangster move is no reaction at all. Point 5. The exposure was for your protection. Every person who switched up on you, God let it happen. Sometimes life doesn't break you. It exposes the people who were never meant to go the distance with you. That friend who suddenly went cold, the relative who started competing with you, the partner who pretended to love you while secretly resenting your growth. They didn't switch up. They showed up. And as hard as that truth might be, it was never random. God let it happen. Because the ritual wasn't meant to destroy you. It was meant to reveal something deeper, something you couldn't see with your physical eyes alone. See, we often think betrayal is just pain, that heartbreak is just misfortune, but what if the betrayal wasn't a punishment? It was proof. Proof that your spirit is elevating, proof that your calling is real, proof that you were never supposed to walk into your destiny with people who couldn't even look you in the eye without envy. The universe doesn't just protect you with blessings, it protects you with exposure. And that exposure often comes in the form of a break, a switch, or a fallout. Painful? Yes, but purifying? Absolutely. Chosen ones don't lose people, they get revealed from them. That's the spiritual reality. When your light starts to shine brighter, it doesn't just attract blessings, it irritates demons. People carrying unresolved jealousy, insecurity, and unhealed wounds will find your elevation threatening. And so they'll shift. They'll ghost you, mock you, try to sabotage you. But don't confuse their absence with a loss. You didn't lose anything. You were spared, and spared just in time. Your discernment, that inner radar that made you question things before they went left, that's your spiritual armor. It's not just about detecting danger. It's about recognizing disconnection. It's about knowing in your spirit who's not qualified to carry your anointing, because not everyone has the capacity to handle your next level. And that's not arrogance, it's alignment. Purpose is sacred. And people who don't respect your energy don't deserve front row seats to your evolution. Remember this, the betrayal hurt, but it saved your life. Yes, it cracked your heart, but it also cleared your path. And if you had tried to carry those people with you any longer, they would have weighed you down, or worse, sabotaged the blessing ahead. Sometimes God doesn't remove people to punish them. He removes them to preserve you. Studies in psychology even support this truth. Toxic relationships increase stress hormones like cortisol, which weaken the immune system and impair decision-making. Imagine that. Staying connected to the wrong person can physically and spiritually drain you. Now compare that to spiritual freedom, clarity, peace, and divine alignment. That's what happens when the weight lifts and the truth is revealed. So yes, Spirit Warrior, it's okay to grieve the fallout. It's okay to miss the idea of who they were, but don't mourn what was never real. Mourn it, release it, and rise above it. Let the tears water your roots, not flood your purpose. Don't get bitter, get better, because bitterness only binds you to the very betrayal you were delivered from. But healing? Healing frees you. Healing turns wounds into wisdom, and wisdom will always walk you into favor. And here's the kicker. Those same people who once doubted you, laughed at you, and gossiped about you, they're watching now, quietly, regretfully. They've come to realize that you knew the whole time. You saw through the mask, stayed quiet, and kept growing. And now, you're rising and they can't stop it. Because when God orders a glow up, no betrayal, no lie, and no gossip can block it. So the next time you think about who switched up on you, smile, not from spite, but from spiritual clarity, because you're still standing, stronger, wiser, cleaner. Let them sit with their regret, while you keep rising into the divine destiny that was always yours. Point 6, you were built for the battle. Let's be clear about one thing. Chosen ones are not ordinary beings living ordinary lives. You are a spiritual warrior cloaked in humility, walking through fire without the world even knowing you were burning. That ritual? That wasn't punishment, it was divine preparation, a test of your character, your endurance, your spirit. That moment of humiliation, the betrayal, the mockery, the isolation, it wasn't a downfall, it was sacred training. Your enemies thought they were breaking you, but all they did was help build you. While they laughed, heaven sharpened your discernment like a blade. While they whispered behind your back, the Most High was preparing to elevate you in front of them. Let's talk about that humiliation ritual, because yes, you didn't just survive it, you evolved. You mastered a level of emotional intelligence that textbooks can't teach. You learned to feel deeply without reacting quickly. You realized that silence could be louder than shouting and peace could be more powerful than vengeance. You began reading people, not just their words, but their energy, their patterns, and their intentions. You could walk into a room and immediately sense who was for you and who came to study you like an exam they hoped you'd fail. And that spiritual strategy, oh, it's unmatched. While others were playing checkers, you were out here playing multidimensional chess. You stopped engaging in petty wars and learned the value of detachment. You didn't just learn how to fight spiritual battles, you learned how to win them without lifting a finger. You let your energy speak, your absence create presence, and your growth silence the noise. People underestimated you because they couldn't see your process, but that's the secret. Your power was never meant to be obvious, it was meant to be undeniable. Let's laugh for a second though, because you've got to admit, it's almost comedic how the very people who tried to ruin your name ended up making you famous. They became your marketing team without even realizing it. Your name stayed in rooms you hadn't even entered yet. They couldn't stop talking about you. Every insult became an advertisement. Every rumor was a free promo. And now? Now they sit in quiet confusion, wondering how you knew everything, how you stayed 10 steps ahead, how you smiled when you should have snapped, but you knew. You knew they were watching, you knew they were plotting, and you let them think they had the upper hand, all while you were getting stronger. But here's the part that separates the chosen from the bitter. You didn't get revenge, you got better. You didn't return evil with evil. You let God use your enemies as your footstool, just like the scripture says in Psalm 110:1. You understood that sometimes divine justice looks like you glowing while they're stuck in the same cycles they tried to trap you in. You didn't wish for their downfall, you simply outgrew the battlefield. You rose higher. So let them sit with their regret. Let them stew in the silence you left behind. You've got bigger things to focus on now. You're legendary not because you fought back, but because you elevated past it all. The world didn't need to see your scars to know you were strong. They just needed to witness your glow. And now they know. The warrior didn't die in the ritual. The warrior was born from it. Point 7. Your rise is the real revenge. Let's be real. There's a certain power in peace that doesn't need to shout to be heard. In a world obsessed with oversharing and proving worth through curated posts and constant validation, choosing silence is an act of rebellion, but not the kind that seeks attention. No, this kind of quiet is sacred, it's divine. It's the kind of peace that speaks louder than any performance ever could. You don't need to announce your every move, prove your worth to doubters, or respond to the people who tried to count you out. Your glow up, it's already happening. And the wildest part, you don't even need to say a word, because your transformation does all the talking. There's science behind this too. Studies in neuroscience show that when we focus on our personal growth in private, without the pressure of external validation, our brains are more likely to stay in a state of intrinsic motivation. That means you're doing it for you, not the applause. And that's the kind of growth that sticks. Real peace comes from alignment, not attention. When your soul is aligned with your purpose, your power activates. And when that power is quiet, it's almost intimidating. People can feel it. They may not know what changed, but they sense the shift. That's the energy you're stepping into now. You see, you were never meant to stay stuck in the chaos. That storm you survived, it wasn't just a setback, it was training. God didn't bring you through the fire just to leave you singed and bitter. He brought you through to refine you. Every tear you cried, every night you thought you wouldn't make it, those were deposits into your strength account. And baby, it's time to cash out. The clouds you were stuck in were just the holding space before your elevation. Now you're being placed above the noise, above the drama, the comparisons, and the small talk. Not because you're better than anyone else, but because you're finally aligned with your divine blueprint. And let's not ignore the ritual. Oh yes, what you went through was real. The isolation, the betrayal, the spiritual warfare. It wasn't just life happening. It was a purification ritual, a sacred tearing away of what couldn't go with you to the next level. While people thought you were losing, you were actually being initiated. That pain was prophetic, that silence, strategic. And now, what once looked like defeat is being revealed as divine design. God used that ritual as the setup for your rise, and now the crown is already yours. You don't need to earn it in the eyes of others. It was handcrafted for you before you were even born. Every scar, every setback, every sacred secret you've carried has been molding you for royalty. And royalty doesn't beg for attention. They walk in rooms and shift the atmosphere quietly, powerfully, without explanation. So angels, let them underestimate you. Let them scroll past your silence and assume nothing's happening. You don't owe the world your process. You owe yourself peace. Because when the glow-up finally reveals itself, it won't be because you screamed louder. It'll be because you rose higher. Spirit warriors, lean into this truth like your life depends on it, because in many ways it does. What once humiliated you was never meant to destroy you. It was meant to purify you. Shame was the fire, but your spirit was the gold. The betrayal that exposed others didn't weaken you. It revealed your strength, your discernment, and your divine assignment. Neuroscience even supports this. Our greatest emotional growth often follows social adversity as the brain rewires through resilience. You weren't broken. You were being reassembled by God for a higher purpose. So when they say you've changed, smile with grace, because you were never meant to stay small. Heaven didn't just watch, it anointed. Stay quiet, stay grounded, stay glowing.